In just 3 months, 14 countries divided an entire continent that none of them actually ruled. That was 1884, and the borders they drew, using rivers, rulers, and latitude lines, ended up splitting 229 ethnic groups across multiple countries. Those groups, they're still fighting over those exact lines today. So, I went back and read the General Act of the Berlin Conference, the actual treaty. Then I found the map they ignored, the one that shows what Africa really looked like before they drew it. It explains why 12 million people are displaced in Sudan right now, why Rwanda just invaded eastern Congo, why every African leader who tried to fix these borders eventually gave up. That's what the documents show. On November 15, 1884, representatives from 14 countries met at Bismarck's residence in Berlin. The big players were all there: Britain, France, Germany, Belgium, Portugal, plus Russia, the Ottoman Empire, and even the US. The British representatives, Sir Edward Mallet, actually said this during the meeting: "I cannot forget that the natives are not represented among us, and that the decisions we make will have extreme importance for them." He said that, and then they kept going anyway, without inviting a single African ruler or government. So why did Bismarck call this meeting? Publicly, he said it was humanitarian. He talked about bringing commerce and civilization to the interior. But in private, Bismarck was blunter. He once said, "All this colonial business is a sham, but we need it for elections." Africa wasn't the point. Africa was the chessboard. When a German explorer asked about his Africa strategy, Bismarck said, "Here is Russia, and here is France, with Germany in the middle. That is my map of Africa." They used the continent to settle European rivalries. And that logic set the template for every border they drew. It wasn't for Africa, it was for Europe. The conference produced the General Act of Berlin, a binding international treaty signed February 26, 1885. But the clause that changed everything was Article 35, the doctrine of effective occupation. It meant any power claiming African territory had to prove it actually controlled it. And if you didn't move fast, someone else would claim it first. The result was a race to plant flags before rivals could. The conference didn't start a scramble for Africa, that was already underway, but it wrote the rules that turned the scramble into a sprint. As historian Wessling put it, in Europe, conquest preceded the drawing of maps. In Africa, the map was drawn, and then it was decided what was going to happen. There's a popular version of this story that treats pre-colonial Africa like a blank slate, an empty space. But the academic sources tell a different story. Before the Berlin Conference, most African states were sovereign. They had recognized rulers. The Sokoto Caliphate was the largest state in West Africa. The Kingdom of Benin had 10,000 kilometers of earth boundaries. The historian Adu Boawen describes Africa in 1880 as far from primitive or static. He says the continent was in a mood of change and revolution. So when Europeans called Africa empty, they were creating a legal fiction. Terra nullius, nobody's land. It was a way to claim territory that millions of people already lived on. And look at the cost. In 2016, economists Mikalopoulos and Papaioannou finally put numbers on it. They overlaid a map of ethnic homelands on top of modern national borders. The result? 229 ethnic groups were partitioned across at least 2 countries. That's nearly 30% of the groups they sampled. In those specific homelands, conflict is 40% higher. Political violence is 57% higher. Take the Somali people. One ethnic group, one language, but they were divided across 4 different countries: Somalia, Ethiopia, Kenya, and Djibouti. If you look at the Somali flag, that 5-pointed star represents those 5 partitioned regions. That single partition caused 3 wars. all driven by the desire to bring separate people back together. Communities that existed for centuries were fractured by people who had never even been there. But the biggest thing to come out of Berlin wasn't the border. It was the conference giving one man an entire country. In 1876, King Leopold II of Belgium told the world, "I am guided by no egotism." But a year later, in a private letter, he wrote, "I don't want to risk losing a fine chance to secure a slice of this magnificent African cake." The conference gave Leopold the Congo Free State, 2.5 million square kilometers. It wasn't a Belgian colony, it was his personal property. What he did there, the rubber quotas, the severed hands, a population cut by at least half, that's another video on its own. But his final words tell you everything. When he was forced to hand the Congo over to the Belgian state in 1908, he said, "I will give them my Congo, but they have no right to know what I did there." Then his staff burned the archives for 8 days straight. The conference ended in 1885, but 141 years later, those borders haven't moved. In Sudan, the civil war has displaced 12 million people. It's being fought across a racial line that was literally drawn by a colonial census in 1929. A British administrator named Harold McMichael categorized their forests by race rather than culture. 55% spoke Arabic at home. The census classified only 28% as Arab. The rest were labeled, and this is the actual term, other Negroid Westerners. That label, from a century ago, is still how the world describes their forced violence. Arab militias against African farmers. It's a colonial fiction being replayed as modern civil war. In the Congo, Rwanda-backed rebels are still fighting over territory that Belgian administrators sliced up without understanding who lived there. In January 2025, Rwanda-backed rebels captured Goma, the capital of eastern Congo, the city of 1 million people. Belgian administrators drew the Congo-Rwanda border through territory that Rwandan kingdoms had historically controlled. Rwanda's president has publicly questioned those colonial borders, claiming parts of eastern Congo were always Rwandan land. In March 2026, the United States sanctioned Rwanda's military over this conflict. You might wonder, why didn't African leaders just fix this after independence? Julius Nyerere, the first president of Tanzania, explained it best. He said, "Precisely because African boundaries were so absurd, it was essential to maintain them." Why? Because redrawing every border would mean every single group has a claim. The result wouldn't be justice, it would be endless total war. So in 1964, they put it in writing. The borders would stand, not because they were right, but because changing them was too dangerous. If we're being fair, the Berlin Conference didn't start the scramble for Africa. Historians call it a safety valve, a way for Europe to avoid war with itself. But it created the rules, it made the race legal. The map they ignored is still there. 229 groups are still divided. A century and a half later, we are still living with what they decided in that room in Berlin. Every source I used is in the description, including the General Act itself. And if you see what happened when Leopold's promises actually met the Congo, that's coming next. Subscribe for more evidence-based history, and thank you for watching.